Hi, I'm Costa, and today we're going to be looking at the all-new WRX from Subaru. Because we'll cover quite a lot during these videos, don't forget to skip ahead to the chapters if there's something specific you want to read about or view. Most cars start their life off as street cars. They're designed, purpose-built from day one to be on the roads. This one is the other way around. This is one of the cars that started off its life on the track and was then modified and updated to end up on the streets. The Subaru WRX comes in three different versions: the WRX, the WRX RS, and the WRX TS, which is the one we've got here today. The WRX and the RS come in a manual option. The TS is an automatic only. It also comes in a wagon, and in the wagon options you get the WRX, WRX RS, WRX TS, and only in automatic. The WRX comes in 8 different colors. The one we've got in front of us today is the Ice Silver Metallic. So the first thing that jumps out with the WRX, and a lot of what people would be thinking, is, has it held true to its sporting heritage? And I feel that it has. Starting off with this big scoop running across the top of the bonnet. This is an actual functional scoop. It does feed air directly into the top of the engine. And it's also got the front grille, so it uses both these two air intakes to air cool the engine compartment. The styling of the headlights, LED daytime running lights, as well as LED directional headlights, and I really like the way they've just forked them into the bonnet over here and down the back, and they've carried that styling cue through to the back as well. The front bumper here, and you can tell when you have a closer look at it, it's got the same kind of finish as a golf ball. So it's not actually perfectly smooth, and Subaru tells us that this has been designed for the same reason a golf ball has indentations in it, is to actually move through the air in a better way. And so all of these finishes, and you'll see it all the way across and around the car, have got that same finish. A shout out to Renetta Subaru for giving us this car here today to do this video for you. It's also got headlight washers that are built into the front over here. The one thing that does jump out, even though this is the WRX TS, the top of the range, it doesn't have front park sensors. LED fog lights. It has become traditional now. The Subaru logo has been imprinted on the headlight. A lot of the manufacturers are doing that now. Yeah, you've got this carbon finish, decorates the front grille. So overall, a very aggressive front look, very much in keeping with what you'd expect from the WRX, and from what I'm reading everywhere, people do love it. So we've got a 2.4 litre turbocharged Boxer 4-cylinder engine. It produces 202 kilowatts at 5,600 RPM and 350 Newton meters at. You've got a choice of a 6-speed manual or the Subaru Performance transmission, which encompasses the Sport Linetronic gearbox. Variable torque distribution, sport shifting controlled, and paddle gear shifters depending on the variant. So that big vent that we saw earlier on the front bonnet leads directly onto this intercooler and is actually rubberized to make sure that it's properly flush and feeding cool air directly onto that. It is turbocharged, and the Boxer engine is actually split by the looks of it. WRX, true to its heritage, is all-wheel drive only, so all 4 wheels are driven all the time. I don't know if you've noticed, but on a lot of the newer Subarus, they've got these cameras that are built in just on top of the windscreen, and this one has got the next generation eyesight technology. These cameras actually form part of the forward collision warning system. The car uses them to read the road, read situations, and just overall improve its ability to respond to danger. In fact, Subaru has actually made a really bold statement. They've come out and said that by 2030, they want to be fatality free. Now that is a big statement. A manufacturer coming forward and saying that by 2030, we want to make sure that nobody that ever drives one of our cars is ever involved in a fatal accident. So good on them, and a lot of safety tech that goes into these cars. Looking at the side styling, it's got these really bold wheel arches that have also been designed in a very angular fashion. Traditionally, the wheel arches are just rounded to come around the wheel. These ones integrate the bodywork and the wheel arch really nicely. So they're finished with the same dimples that you'd find on a golf ball. The 18-inch alloy wheels are actually standard from the WRX, but they change in styling as you move up to the RS and the TS. So these would be unique to the TS. The same dimple finish. So basically all the black surfaces, all the styling surfaces that they've used all across the car, that same dimple finish. So 360-degree view camera is standard from the WRX. And moving up, color-coded side mirrors. The styling of the car, I really like it against the silver. The black and the silver break up together really nicely and contrast each other really well. The back of the vehicle, you've got privacy glass on the rear windows, and I actually really like the simplicity that they've gone with. Just a clean black finish all the way around the windows gives you that really smart break between the glass and the bodywork. Dolphin fin aerial just adds to the styling, and if you see kind of where it sits, it's almost all the way outside the top line of the car, so it's not ever really sticking up. Don't ever have to worry that it might hit something. The sunroof is standard from the RS and again in the TS as well, so you get it from the RS to the TS. The door handles have keyless entry, so all you got to do is touch the sensor and it unlocks the car. On the front wheel arch, it's actually got this over here, which initially I thought was just styling, but it's not. It's actually feeds air through the wheel well and allows it to escape. The rear styling at first glance might be a little bit overwhelming, but the more I look at it, the more I love it. There's a lot of different angles, a lot of things going on over here, but it's been done really well. There's just the right amount of colors between blacks and the silvers, breaking up really nicely with, of course, the splash of red running through the tail lights. LED rear tail lights, multi-refractive surfaces over here, again with the Subaru logo inside there. The symmetrical all-wheel drive badge, symmetrical meaning that it's been weighted to get the best possible weight distribution through the all-wheel drive system, and it is a permanent all-wheel drive. The TS that we have here today has its own unique TS badging, and the rear park sensors, which are situated pretty high up, so I guess you'd need to be careful in terms of, you know, the bottom of the bar, but I'm pretty sure they would have been calibrated for that, and there's none on the side. But I think that these are angled sideways, so if you look at these ones, they're actually angled that way. The rear sports bar is well positioned. It sits further out than the rest of the vehicle, so in a small parking lot bumper bashing type situation, it would actually do its job really well and protect the bodywork of the car. It's got the same dimpled effect that we spoke about across all the other black surfaces of the vehicle, and it's got the dual double exhausts that come out really aggressively on either side, exactly what you'd expect, and the center mounted fog lamp. The rear spoiler is just enough without being overbearing, and it's got a lot of beautiful angles in it that complement the Subaru logo just underneath there. Reverse camera sits neatly tucked away over there, and your high mounted stoplight just above there. The rear tailgate can be released from a button over here, but it can also be released with a long tap on the remote. It is spring loaded so that when you release it, it actually pops up all the way. A really big spacious boot, exactly what you'd expect from a sedan like this one. The access points into the boot, again like a traditional, like you'd expect from a sedan. They do have certain limitations in terms of the size of things that you can fit in there. The spare wheel is a space saver, along with all the tools sitting snugly inside the wheel well so that they don't lock around anywhere. And a very generous rear boot with folding rear seats, so you do get a feed into the cabin of the car if you need it, so that you can load longer items. From the RS onwards, you get the 10-speaker Harman Kardon system with a big speaker over here. You also get the automatic one-touch windows. The carbon fiber finish on the doors here is really high quality, as is the red stitching that runs all the way through the door here. High quality material. This little guy, you'll notice, is sticking in there because he's a feed for this. This is part of the side impact safety system of the car. And what it does is it allows it, when you close the door, this metal rod connects with the chassis of the vehicle, just creating more rigidity for side impact. So safety feature. Old school child lock over here, up and down switch. Moving to the inside of the vehicle, you've got these seat pockets at the back here from the RS. You've got a dual vent system that you can control here. You've got 12 volt, 2.1 amp, 12 volt USB ports over there, USB-A only. And you also get the heated seats, so you get the heated rear seats from the RS and TS, those come standard. High quality suede leather finish on the seats, ISOFIX points running through here, 3-point seat belts all the way across, 3 rear head restraints, and of course your armrest with cup holders. Really comfortable, does have a lot of leg room, but I do find that because it's a sedan, the headroom at the back here is probably a little bit tricky. I'd have to probably sit a little bit more slouched in my seat, and even then my head's touching the roof. I'm 6 foot on the nose. At the back here, you got the Harman Kardon speakers, and you got the tethering points, all 3 positions for the tethering points for the child seats. So because it's an all-wheel drive as well, you do also have the transmission well that runs through here, so for the rear drive shaft. So armrest, inside here, storage compartment, as well as a CD player feed, a little storage compartment there, 2 cup holders, really nice stitching all the way through the center console. Continue on with the red stitching through there, and the same quality finish as you find on the leather suede seats continues on through the console and all the way across here, again with more red stitching, so a really high quality finish. Glove box and these very stylish vents. From the RS, you get an 8-way power electric seat with lumbar support on both driver and passenger, and 8 airbags for this vehicle. So the only place you're going to see the WRX logo is on the headrest and on the back of the vehicle, and on the one we've got here today, you get the STI badge on the steering wheel. The dual tone suede finish is a nice touch. Starting from the door here, you got your electric window control, central locking, and your mirrors selection, as well as electric folding mirrors. You also have on the door here your memory seats, which are linked to the 8-way power seats. So those are standard from the RS. You got a boot release button, as well as a rear latch switch and an ESP on and off button over here. The steering wheel controls are pretty big and pretty prominent, so they'd be really easy to use while driving the vehicle. And well positioned on this side is all your cruise control and speed limiters are set on the right hand side, and on the left hand side is all your audio controls, radio, phone controls, and those things. At the bottom here you've also got this old school little switch, which is for your trip computer and allows you to scroll through the different menus of the trip computer. Paddle shifters left and right over there, with a start stop button on this side and the trip reset button on that side. Leather steering wheel finish on the TS and the RS with the red stitching running all the way through it. Unique to the TS is the STR badge. So the DMS or driver management system comes standard from the RS. However, when you go up to the TS, you get the drive mode selection memory function, which basically means that you're able to select your driver, in this case me. It actually prompted me when I first got into the car, it prompted me to set up the DMS, and what it does is it reads your face using the cameras that are inward facing. So you access the DMS button from this button over here, and then it gives you this menu, default Chad, but you can actually change driver profiles. So you can switch on to somebody else's driver profile, or you can go back to the one we're on now. So at the moment it's set to mine. So this feature is unique to the TS, and this driver monitoring system is the same system that detects whether or not you're paying attention to the road, focusing. If you take your eyes off the road for any short period of time, it actually gives you an audio warning to get you to pay attention, and that's all part of their no fatalities by 2030 technology. So a lot of tech has gone into that promise. If we look at the dash, it's got what I'd call an old school analog finish. So you've got your two analog controllers on either side. You've got your speedometer and your rev counter, as well as your engine temperature and your fuel gauge. So two prominent old school analog dials there, and then in the center is a digital controller, which is controlled here. It allows you to scroll through different settings of the digital controller in the center there, and your smart cruise. So that'll give you a feed in the center there based on what you're doing with your smart cruise. It also has traffic sign recognition. You can also set the different modes using this mode button here. They're actually really well displayed over here. So using the mode button, you can scroll through them. And you start off with comfort, which puts the power unit in position I, the steering in comfort, the suspension in comfort, the all-wheel drive system in normal, the eyesight system in comfort. If you hit it again, you can go into the sport, which puts the power unit into sport, steering into normal, and so on and so forth. You also get Sport Plus. And then finally you get the last driver mode, which is the individual, and that drive mode lets you adjust and pick your own settings for the power unit, the steering, the suspension, and the all-wheel drive system, eyesight system, and the climate control. So the individual is really a personalized feature. This fifth individual slot in Sport Plus is part of the TS only. The RS gets all the other drive modes except for the individual. So really concise center console. I really like the fact that you've got the two simple analog controllers left and right and a small digital section in the middle, which really just gets you focused in on a few of the little details that you might want to know about your car. The P's, where's your gear shifter setting, what mode are you in, is your DMS system active and reading your eye contact properly, as well as a simple little feed there for your smart cruise control. Moving over to the center console over here, if we just hit the home button, this is sort of your home screen. It's got a very much like a smartphone look to it, with little app icons running all the way through it, so it makes it pretty intuitive. And if you want to go from the infotainment system, you can go to the car and press the car logo. Your auto vehicle hold, you can set it from there. So steering response, headlights, so that's if you want the headlights to be responding to your steering controls, and your auto start stop if you want that on or off. It also tells you what mode you're in. From there you can go into all sorts of other driver assistance, speed assistance, and other. Coming back to the home screen, you got maps, so navigation is standard from the RS. You got your radio, your media, if you want to plug in media or use that CD player that we showed you earlier. The phone, any apps that you have, car information, which tells you what's happening with your driving statistics and angles, as well as your maintenance schedule and what's happening with all of that. And then settings, and shortcuts. And the last one is this one here that we've already covered off on, which is the driver profiles. Right at the bottom here are your aircon controls, and they do also have manual controllers here in case you want to use them while driving. The fan speed though is only on the digital, which could be pretty tricky if you're trying to control that one while driving. And then over here at the bottom is your heated seats that you can control there. So really intuitive, really straightforward, very smartphone look and feel about it, and very easy to understand where all the little bits and pieces fit in. Moving to the bottom here, you've got a charger over there, as well as two more USB-A's and an old school audio jack in. Again, no USB-C on the front here, no wireless charging either. Your view button here, which gives you your 360-degree view cameras and brings them up over there, lets you see all the way around the car. And if you press it again, you can go front to side to back. So piano black finish all the way around here, your electric brake or park brake over there, the red stitching running all the way through the gear lever leather. And I like that they haven't brought the piano black all the way up to this high contact area, because these high contact areas, if you do piano black on those, they tend to scratch over time. So they've done a bit of a hardier dark grey graphite finish all the way around this rim. So driver comfort, your steering wheel is height and reach adjustable, which is really handy. You do have sport bucket seats, so as soon as you get in the car, you really feel like they hug you, and you get a nice comfortable feel inside the cabin of the car. The gear lever sits pretty high up here, so ergonomically it's very close proximity to the steering wheel. Again, I would say that's been done on purpose and in keeping with its sport heritage to have that short distance there. Yeah, just really comfortable car, and very excited to get driving. I really like the fact that you can see, when you look out over the bonnet of the car, you can see that air intake scoop. It kind of stands up, where a lot of modern cars, your front bonnet disappears out of your line of sight, and you're relying on the electronic park sensors and front cameras to kind of figure out where the front of the car is. So moving up at the top here, we've got your passenger airbag light over there, seat belt control lights over there, a light sensing rear view mirror over there, so you can switch it on and off. It doesn't have or electromagnetic, as they used to call it. You've got your cabin lights there and there, and your sunroof. So this is the tilt function and the slide function of the sunroof. And tilt. And a manual one. It's got a very good lane centering system as well. So if we switch on the smart cruise, indicators are spring loaded, so even when you indicate, they're always coming back to this centralized position, so that's something pretty different. It's a really smooth drive in normal. I'm going to switch it over to sport. Now this is the TS, so this does have the dampening or self-dampening suspension, so that's one of the unique features of the TS. So it can actually stiffen and soften the suspension, and you can feel it straight away in sport mode. The steering wheel has gone a lot stiffer, which makes it easier to control the car. And you can feel the suspension stiffened up. We can also go into Sport Plus. So there again, almost instantaneously, it kind of geared down. You felt the revs popping up a little bit. So in the Sport Plus, it's going to definitely want to drive in a high RPM range. And again, the steering feels the same as it did in Sport, and the suspension too. So there we go. We're just going to set it to Smart Cruise there. And there straight away you can see the blue lines and the little green logo, which tells you that the steering assist system is actually taken over now. Well, I say taken over, it's only ever guiding you. You can still override it manually by forcing the steering wheel. But essentially in this instance now, it's maintaining our speed for us, and it's also keeping itself inside the lanes. You can feel it in Sport Plus gearing down as we're slowing down. So just a quick overview there. What do we get in Sport Plus? So the power unit, the steering and the suspension are all in sport mode. The all-wheel drive is in sport mode, and the eyesight system is in dynamic. See there, it's holding the gears longer. set the speed there to 60. The speed sign recognition is also on. So it's a red a speed sign there, and it's telling me that we're in a 60 zone. As it detects a car in front of us, it slows down. So pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a smart cruise or intelligent cruise system. It's reading the road and the play really well. It's detecting the car in front of us and pacing our speed. And it's reading the lines as well and keeping us nicely in position here. Another Subaru. An Outback all-wheel drive. So the all-wheel drive is definitely a Subaru thing, isn't it? Really wants to go in sport mode. And it just effortlessly gets to 100. You almost feel disappointed. That's literally driving around that corner for me. And you can't see it from the camera, but it's actually got a little tiny heads-up display. And what it does is it's giving me a little green light at the moment in my heads-up display. And that little green light is to just let me know that I'm sitting nicely inside my lane. If I start to stray, it gives me a warning. Little red lights. It also vibrates on the steering wheel. It brought up some red lights on that little heads-up display just to let me know that I've strayed out of my lane. So at the moment, it's pretty much just keeping itself on the inside this lane. My hands are on the steering wheel. Essentially, as a precaution, I'm not really applying much pressure. It does also have a steering, or rather a hand sensor, so if you do take your hands off the steering wheel, it actually realizes that there's no physical input on the steering wheel, and it gives you a warning to get your hands back on the wheel. So in this mode, it's holding at 2,500 RPM. I'm wondering if I change to comfort. There we go, it actually dropped the RPMs in comfort. It's now doing it at just under the 2,000 RPM, same speed. So it's obviously just engaged a higher gear to do that in. And it's also quietened down a little bit, but not a lot, but just a smidge. I am trying to get used to the spring-loaded indicator stalk. Because even though it's spring-loaded, it does actually have two settings. It's got a tap 3 times, a tap indicate 3 times, and then if you do like a longer push, it'll actually engage the indicator, but both ways it'll spring back to the center position. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. If you go too far left and you want it to switch off, you can just tap it in the other direction and it switches off. Having looked at all the different models, I think that the RS, for me personally, provides good value for money. If you go for the RS manual, you could save yourself about $5,500 Australian versus the TS that we're driving now. I think it's really good value for money. It's a lot of car for that kind of money. In terms of keeping true to a WRX, I think for me, personal opinion, a WRX is a car that brings some of the racetrack onto your day-to-day commuting, but it still needs to be a professional and responsible vehicle, and I think that this one ticks all of those boxes really well. For those that are looking for something a little bit noisier, a little bit more exhaust notey, this one really doesn't talk to me that much in terms of exhaust note. You would probably need to get the exhaust system modified aftermarket or something like that. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. If there's any other vehicles you'd like us to do a walkthrough presentation on, you can leave that in the comments below too. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.